The Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit is sponsored by James Oliver Coffee Company at jamesolivercoffee.com. James Oliver is a second-generation family-owned and Detroit-based coffee roaster, offering 19 different blends of freshly roasted coffee. The company pioneered link temperature roasting, and they source the best beans from around the world to create an outstanding coffee experience, no matter which beans you choose. To start, try the Alma Mater blend. James Oliver Coffee gives $5 for each bag of its Alma Mater blend to the Detroit Public Schools Foundation. And don't forget, use the promo code CFSHOW, that's CFSHOW, to get 15% off your first order. James Oliver Coffee, available at select grocery stores in Metro Detroit and, of course, at jamesolivercoffee.com. Remember, use the promo code CFSHOW to get 15% off your first order. That's jamesolivercoffee.com. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to the week that was on Deadline Detroit. I am your host, Craig Fahle. It is so great to have you with us today. It is another busy week here in America, and I'll tell you what, things just got upended yesterday in a huge way. But before we get into that, I thought I would introduce my panelists. As always, we have Nancy Derringer from Deadline Detroit. Thank you, Nancy, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Allan Lengel, editor and co-founder of Deadline Detroit, is with us as well. Thank you.
Hello.
Attorney Steve Fishman joining us once again from his beautiful corner office in the Ford building.
Wow, I like the view.
Also, local PR and marketing guru David Rudolph is joining us for the first time. David, we appreciate it very much. Thanks for being here.
Nice to be here.
And I see your little West Side reference. I appreciate that very much. And an uninvited guest, but who is actually somebody that's a really hard get. So this is a good get for the show right now. The Fly is with us today, who made himself famous just the other day by parking so beautifully for a 2 minutes. 2 minutes and 3 seconds on Mike Pence's head the other day during the Vice Presidential Debate. And as people have said, the Fly was the only one that actually observed the 2-minute rule during that debate.
The only thing that would have been better if a 10-year-old would have stuck up behind him and given him the horns.
It was pretty good. It definitely disrupted everything. But thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate it. And this week was already going to be a busy show because we're looking at the president's COVID diagnosis, his alleged miracle cure that he's been talking about, how he's about to head back out on the campaign trail. I mean, we're looking at a guy who's a potential super spreader. That would have been enough. To make for a great show, a busy show. However, yesterday, Michigan, way to go, Michigan. Once again, number one in the crazy department with this plot to kidnap and potentially assassinate Gretchen Whitmer. 13 people have now been indicted in this one, some on state charges, others on federal charges, terrorism charges, some domestic terrorists in our midst here in the state of Michigan. Not a shock, given that I've been following the militia movement since about 1994 in the state and have looked at it pretty extensively, not just the militia movement, but all the far right-wing extremism groups that are propping up here. But this is another step. As I said yesterday, it's time to turn off the crazy because this is just absolute lunacy. Steve Fishman, I'm going to start with you because when I asked you to join us on the show yesterday, you said, hey, I just finished reading the entire 15-page complaint. That is some bizarre stuff in there.
It's more than bizarre. What's bizarre, there are a couple things that are bizarre about it. Number one, how fortunate we all are that somebody in that group, and reading the paper today, it sounded like it was from the Watchmen, whatever they call themselves, that militia. But that
Watchmen.
Yeah, that somebody had gone to the feds and was in there and had the balls to wear a wire. Particularly in one of the paragraphs of the complaint, there was one day where these crazies decided they're going to find out if anybody's wired up, and they've gone a long way from the old days where you were wearing what looked like it was obvious to anybody. But that plot, as crazy as it was getting into pretty good detail, blowing up the bridge on the lake that's near the governor's home, her residence. And, you could see in there that I think the last date was October 6th. And they probably said, hey, we got to do something before these crazy shits do something, really go about and doing it.
Well, and it makes me wonder, I mean, because they said that the investigation is ongoing. There are other people, because you have to know that if these 13 guys were involved, there are likely other people that have some sort of knowledge of this. It's a multi-state thing as well. You got guys from Ohio and Wisconsin participating in this. And you have to wonder if they possibly sent some other people scattered to the wind because they had to do something about this as quickly as they did. They've taken a little more time. They may have been able to round up a bunch more of these people.
What's interesting is that, the upside is that these groups are not that hard to penetrate. It's not too hard to get informants in there. It's not too hard to get undercover. In fact, I interviewed an FBI agent yesterday who retired after 23 years of working on domestic extremist guys. And the first time I saw him, which I didn't know he was an FBI agent, I was at the Washington Post covering a rally in front of the Israeli embassy where white supremacists were allegedly defending Palestinians. And they were chanting stuff like freedom for Palestine, a rope for every Finkelstein. And wow, I looked over there and a lot of the guys were doing the Zig Heil thing and the shaved heads. And so, maybe a couple months later, I was at a retirement party at the Washington field office of the FBI. And I look at this guy and I go, "Were you at the rally? Were you doing the Zig Heil?" He goes, "Yeah, that was me." He was undercover. And that night they had a concert, like a neo-Nazi concert over in Baltimore. And there were just tons of FBI guys part of it. So they're so desperate. You see that they went to the Capitol during these Second Amendment rallies trying to recruit people, openly recruiting. And so, the wider you cast a net, the easier it is to get caught. And so the good part, law enforcement was with them pretty early on in this plot.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from Steve Fishman, who knows more about criminals than I will ever know. But I also kind of think these guys strike me as spectacularly dumb. Now, that doesn't make them any less dangerous.
That's what they used to say about McVeigh before he blew up the building in Oklahoma City.
Well, was he really that dumb, though? Well,
yeah,
anyway.
Stupid.
No,
yeah.
I'm just saying it doesn't make him any less dangerous. But I was struck by, for instance, in the criminal complaint, they described some meeting where they all had to go through a trap door, into the basement, which is like, come on. And then they enforced group discipline by having everyone put their cell phones in a bag.
In a box.
And it's like, the guys weren't, it's like, yeah, it's nice if your cell phone's gone, but that doesn't mean you're not wearing a wire. And like Steve said, it's no longer a tape recorder, taped to your chest. They can hide it in your clothing, and they're much more sophisticated. So I don't know, these guys, you look at those mugshots and it's hard not to think. All that comes to mind immediately to me anyway is just like, so.
Well,
let me say this is that, while as dumb as the plot is, we should all, and should be taking more serious, these types of organizations who are really finding some speed in not only the tone that we've had here in the country for the last 4+ years, and sort of the all the dog whistle type of things that the president is saying. But when you're down here in Detroit, I have in the past have thought, oh, that's kind of like an up north thing, and that's kind of why you don't see a lot of brothers going up north. But I'm starting to take this real serious, because they have had the audacity to really try to study her movements and her location and family and bridges and escape routes. I can't remember anything like this. This is just incredible to see this play out the way as quickly as it has. I'm glad that it was foiled, but nonetheless, I think we are in a new this new normal is real, and I don't think it's going to be the last. This is just, to me, I think is the beginning, because I fear for November 3rd, whichever way, I think it's going to be crazy, and the craziers are coming out in full scale now.
I feel like life is competing with Netflix. Who can be more creative? And it's sometimes life is. I think since Trump took office, I think life is winning out. Netflix needs to catch up a little.
Well, it's funny because I was looking at some of the reaction to this yesterday, and obviously it's very predictable where the comments come down on this. There's a lot of people saying, hey, look, these guys are just people who believe in the Constitution. They're just patriots. And I said, they're meeting in a basement underneath a trapdoor, plotting the kidnap and potential murder of an elected official, talking about maybe taking hostages within the Capitol. Gee, that sounds a whole lot like a terrorist organization to me. And this is a terrorist cell that emerged in our own state. And there are more of these out there right now. And these guys want to cloak themselves behind the flag in some capacity. They can't. They are terrorists, plain and simple. Well, the reluctance to call it out for what it is by certain people is really shocking to me.
It's interesting. Yeah. There are no. Oops, I'm sorry. I was
just going to say, isn't that exactly what I was telling you yesterday when I was out of in the headline?
Well, again,
militia.
I was interviewing the FBI guy, and he says, and he has been pushing for years to get a federal charge of domestic terrorism, and there is none. But there are state charges, and the guys who were charged by the state were charged with state charges of terrorism, which I don't know what the problem is with getting some federal statutes, and maybe Steve has some insights into why there's such resistance to that, but I don't know. Doesn't make sense. Got everything else.
Here's a thought that crossed my mind is that there's that legislation in Lansing that's been going nowhere regarding firearms in the Capitol. This, if there is not motivation, that bill should move real fast to prove just how crazy that is, and yet. Nothing.
Well, Shirky wouldn't commit to it yesterday. He tried to lay it on the Capitol Commission and saying, well, the Capitol Commission is the group that makes these decisions. And then an interview with one of the people from the Capitol Commission that most of us actually know is like, hey, I think it should be up to the legislature to deal with this issue. And I'm sorry. We have elected officials. Clearly, we have now evidence of a plot to kill an elected official. That should be enough to not allow firearms in the Capitol. And if anybody's too chicken shit to take this on, then I think they've got real problems. What are they afraid of here? Are you afraid to piss off these people? Because if you are, then that's the problem. Piss off these people because they are not on our side. They are not on anybody's side.
Look at who the leaders of the legislature are right now. We have Mike Shirkey from Clark Lake and Lee Chatfield from somewhere up there, way up in the cuticle of the mitten. And, these are their, I don't want to say these are their constituents, but I mean, these are people who live in some of the lowest crime areas of the world, of the country, certainly, and have, have like an arsenal under the bed because of, protection, all this stuff. And it's like, if you can't get through, I mean, they're never going to tell their constituents, this is just one place where we don't need a gun. You need a gun everywhere. So,
we're only like 3 weeks out from deer season. You think these guys could have just held out for a little bit longer? They can go walk around in the woods and shoot all the crap that they want. I mean, and it just
deer season comes after Election Day, though, doesn't it?
Well, probably. Well,
and they wanted that trial.
Unless you want your bow and arrow. So.
They wanted that trial of Gretchen Whitmer taken care of before Election Day, and I think the lawyers know all about those pre-trial motions and how they can really slow walk a trial these days,
especially in front of a group like those guys. They'd be really interested in pre-trial motions.
Yeah.
Sure. Here's
I don't want to move light of this because she was not only looking. I mean, if they had actually managed to pull this off, which I really don't think they could have, it would have been. I mean, they probably would have killed her. I'm sure they would have killed her. I mean, that.
So
what if blood of liberty, whatever they say? Go ahead.
Maybe they would have hired. Maybe she would have hired Fishman to defend her in the trial.
Better hire Fishman, or they're going to be spending a lot of time behind bars. I'm sorry, Steve. You started to say something.
Do you think there'd have been a different reaction if all these guys would have had Muslim names?
Oh my gosh!
I wonder what the Shirkies and the Chatfields, or whatever that guy's name is, would have said if it was a bunch of brothers doing this. Or
what happened to Law and Order
from Dearborn with names like Al Sagir or something like that? Then it would have been terrorism. They'd have been on the front page. They'd have been going out of their minds.
Or what happened to Law and Order? Our Law and Order president, didn't he?
Yeah.
stand up and go, oh my God, this is horrible. This is uncovering a whole different segment of society.
But let's talk about the president's reaction to this, because, we had, of course, Governor Whitmer came out and gave a statement yesterday afternoon, and she said, look, some of the rhetoric that we're hearing from this White House is emboldening these groups. Didn't call him a white supremacist. President then claimed that she was calling him a white supremacist, but his reaction was like, she's terrible governor. She locked down her state, and she's awful. Instead, and basically blamed the victim of this alleged plot for creating this situation in which it could happen, which is just a horrible response. Again, David, I'm going to put you on the spot here because you're a PR guy. How hard would it have been for the president to sit there and say, I condone violence of any type. This is unacceptable. These people will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And congratulations to the FBI and the Michigan State Police for getting this done. And I'm glad the governor is safe. That's all he needed to say, but he can't do it.
It's all he had to say. You would have thought that that's the kind of thing you want to hear your president say. But we know that this guy is not that kind of man. This is the embodiment of Darth Vader. He's got no heart. And the fact that he came out and basically, he almost suggested you ought to kiss my ring and say, and tell me thank you for for my FBI saving you,
my Justice Department saved you.
That. I'm like,
my Justice Department, he said, which is just disturbing.
Who does that? Who has the audacity to say that? But Trump is that kind of guy, and so again, for him, nothing is, he's not apologetic, and doesn't have a sense of remorse for anything, so for him, he just stays on the attack mode. So it's crazy just to hear him say that.
The only remorse he might have is that he might be worried that they didn't vote early. Those 13 people.
Right.
Why? I hope they took their ballots.
The ballots ended up in a ditch somewhere, so.
But what still troubles me is I can't see this president who won this state by what? 10,000 votes?
704. Yeah.
704?
10,704.
So the fact that you would instead of being empathetic, you want to attack the governor of the state that you need. So you're going to lose Michigan. He's already got problems in Wisconsin. You don't know where Pennsylvania is going to go, and so it doesn't make any sense for him for the position that he's taking. So he's almost, the way he's acting is like he's discounted Michigan by virtue of he hates the governor and everything that she did to keep us protected, because we damn sure know he didn't care anything about us, through this pandemic.
Do we have to tell David the definition of Trump's mind when we're talking about? Do I need to do the criminal mind?
Go right ahead, Steve. Go right ahead.
David, the reason that he can't do it, whether it's Governor Whitmer, the pandemic, or anything else, is because here's the regular mind, there's the criminal mind. And he has a criminal mind. So there's no way for normal people, as I've told these guys many times, to sit and try to analyze. I've dealt with enough crooks in my life. Criminal mind, you look at everything. Going across the street is different to a guy with a criminal mind than it is with people who have a normal mind. That's the answer. Every time you're sitting there at home going, I can't believe this son of a bitch has said this again. Just think if he was a guy that just sticks up banks for a living. Because that's basically what he's done his whole life. He's a criminal, and he has a career criminal's mind. That's it.
They don't see the world the same way. So,
well, it's okay. All right, we should probably move on because there is some other stuff to get to. Last Friday I was not here. Thank you, by the way, Nancy, for taking over last week. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah,
and of course, that's the day that it became known that Donald Trump had tested positive for the coronavirus. Now, apparently, after a short stay in Walter Reed, he has been cured, he says. He calls Regeneron not just a therapeutic, but a cure, which is dangerous, once again, for something that has not yet been approved by the FDA or even gone through any testing protocols. Also, a company that he once owned stock in. Also, the owner of the company owns property or owns some space in some of Trump's properties as well. So there's clearly that double dealing aspect of this, which of course there's going to be because of the aforementioned criminal mind that goes on there. But then he also went on to say that him getting the coronavirus was a gift from God. I'm not sure that the other 214,000 people that have died from this would consider that to be an empathetic statement in any way, shape, or form. And now he's trying to get clearance to go back out on the road in the next couple of days, even though they won't tell us when the last time he had a negative test was, even though we don't know exactly where he caught this, even though we don't know if he knew before he went to that super spreader event that he created was something that was going on. So we can't even do contact tracing for the people that contact tracing for the people that the president has come in contact with before he wants to get back out there on the road and potentially shed this virus to more people. It blows my mind.
Now we see why his wife doesn't sleep in the same bed or the same room with him. So
he doesn't want to deprive his fans. He feels he was talking about the group, the group of people who lost their loved ones in war.
The Gold Star families.
Yeah, the Gold Star families. And he's like, hey, he goes, look, they want to be near me. They want to hug me. They love me.
And they probably gave it to me. He said that.
Think about that for a second, though. Think about how depraved your mind has to be to stand up and publicly say that you got it from Gold Star family. Now, this is the same guy who I presume probably told the Gold Star families that their sons or daughters were suckers and losers for even being involved with the military. Why would they possibly want to do that? And then to have the colossal gall to accuse, is basically the way he said it, because they loved him so much. Of who the hell would want to hug Donald Trump? His wife wouldn't hug Donald Trump. No, but I mean, think of it, what Lengel and I would say of the chutzpah, the nerve to make a statement like that, to insult families of dead soldiers and say that they came and they gave him because they loved him so much. They gave him the virus. That, to me, even by Trumpian career criminal standards, that one was kind of off the charts.
Well, I mean, the White House is a disease zone right now. How many staffers are we talking about and people that we've confirmed at this point?
Plus 27, I think.
It's like the bathroom at 2 a.m., right before the bar closes. It really is bad.
So just envision, Trump. He is kind of reminds me of one of my favorite cartoons in the Peanuts, in terms of Pigpen, in terms of just sort of all of that dust and nastiness everywhere he goes. And when I think about the president back in the White House, I always get that sort of feeling of that visual in my head of him just shedding it all over the place, which is just really pathetic that he would do that. But I listened to his interview last night. He was on Fox, and
that was absolutely crazy.
And that having that conversation about the Gold Star, and I caught it, or I probably caught it from Gold Star families. And and he's coughing through it, and I'm like, "Shit, man!" I'm like, "You're on live TV having this interview, and you sound like you need to be, on a ventilator." He's very his breathing and just trying to catch his breath, And I was like, "Are you serious?" I truly believe that,
it's a flash forward.
The cocktail of drugs he's on. I do believe that, he is not mentally fit right now, but he wasn't in the beginning, but even more so now.
What's interesting is I've been trying to follow Chris Christie. He's still in the hospital. He checked himself in on Saturday.
Yeah.
Out of an abundance of caution.
Yeah, out of abundance of caution. The average stay, they say, of a COVID patient is 5 days in the hospital. Average, and some stay obviously longer. Some can stay a month or two. But he's there, and they're being really quiet about his condition. So it'd be interesting to see. He's got asthma. He's obviously overweight. He's got some core issues there. So
well, I mean, but then the president, saying I've been cured, which is strange, and then telling people not to fear the coronavirus, and I just.
I'm waiting.
He cannot help himself.
I'm waiting for Rudy Giuliani. He's the one I want to see go in. Did you see the other day when he was
not looking good?
He was coughing. During a Fox interview, and when he put his hand to his mouth, you could see that the color of his hand was like of a corpse, and his face was still that kind of TV pancake.
Let's go back.
Go ahead. What was he at the Rose Garden on last Saturday?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I didn't see him there.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
All right, go ahead, Steve.
Let's go back for just a second to what David was saying about the man having no empathy. Think about think about the mentality of someone standing up and telling the public, you don't fear the coronavirus. The numbers are crazy, but there's more than just the people who have passed. Somebody like me who has two really good friends, lifetime friends that died in the beginning of it. There's a ton of regular people out here that are still okay who have experienced this through their own friends or relatives. So you're really insulting millions of people is what you're really doing. Yep. And the notion of being that's stupid. It doesn't, even the criminal mind, that's kind of beyond me. It really is.
Well, and the fact that, we don't know. They won't tell us whether or not he's tested negative. And he still wants to go out and be cleared to go out and do these events. And first of all, if you go to one of these events that Donald Trump is at, well, then, that's on you. Because it's like, don't be stupid. Join up
with the militia men. He'd be qualified definitely to join up with those guys.
If I were Joe Biden, I'd be down in Florida and saying, hey, look where I am. And look where the president is hiding in the White House. Hey, come on. It's driving crazy to see Joe Biden out there. He is just going insane.
Well, I think it would behoove them to be a little bit more transparent on the test results for both the president, the vice president, and the other folks that were around any of those events, because we just don't know. I mean, he had a campaign rally. They had the event for Amy Coney Barrett, and that one seems to be the event where everybody seemed to have caught something. We don't know exactly.
The fly may have it.
That excuse about, I watched those pressers with the physicians at Walter Reed and sort of answering some questions and then invoking the, HIPAA. And then the moment, like my wife works for Henry Ford Health System. And so the moment that his physician gave his biomeds, blood pressure, whatever. I mean, he gave his blood pressure stuff. She was like, they've already crossed the HIPAA. You can't even give that. So you can't give a little bit of the health condition of the patient and then fall back and say, well, we can't talk about whether or not when was the last time he. I don't get it. I mean, that's just shit anyway.
Well, David, I mean, here's the interesting thing, too, about HIPAA. As soon as somebody is deemed to be a public health threat, that HIPAA stuff goes out the window, because you can tell people, hey, this guy's walking around out there and he's got this strain of typhoid or whatever it is, and you need to make sure that he's not spreading this kind of stuff. There are emergency times when HIPAA is not enforceable. And if somebody is going to be spreading something like coronavirus, that could be one of those times. You could interpret it that way if you wanted to. And I'm sure some of the doctors probably would like to. But they definitely need to tell us what's going on with him, because
the bottom line,
something interesting. Blood pressure. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. The bottom line is that a patient can release any information they want. He's telling the doctors what to say. They're not hiding behind. I mean, they are using HIPAA as an excuse, but HIPAA, once a patient releases and says, "Yeah, go ahead," I mean, you're free to say whatever you want.
Well, he's been cured apparently, so I guess we don't need to worry about it anymore. I'm just going to take his word for it.
He's an honest guy.
Let's talk about something else here for just a second. Because of this COVID diagnosis, it doesn't look like we're going to get a second debate between Joe Biden and President Trump. They were going to change it to a virtual event. And the president does not like that because, as he said yesterday, they can cut off my microphone. I don't want that to happen. Right. So he says he's not going to participate now. And Joe Biden didn't waste any time. He said, fine, I'll do a town hall somewhere else and talk to voters myself on another network, which good for him. I mean, if you're not, you made these plans in advance, you might as well use that time effectively. He's out there. He's scoring some points.
Even want to be reelected? I mean, seriously,
I don't know.
The number of mistakes are piling up to the point that I think it is time to ask that question. Maybe this is just some backdoor way to lose the election and to save face by, he'll back out of the room thundering about, rigged elections and he was cheated and robbed and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, if this is him, like running his life the way he is accustomed to running it, I think we understand why he was such a successful businessman.
I don't know, Steve. I mean, it seems to me that he would want to win this election because as long as he's the president, he's got some legal protection. It seems to me that the folks in New York are lining up all kinds of fun stuff against him.
I have been saying since the Second Circuit upheld the district judge, now they're going to go to the Supremes because Trump has the criminal mind. I guarantee you he wants to get Judge Barrett confirmed because in his view, God forbid anybody should decide something on the law, they're going to go there and protect him. My opinion is, and I've been saying this for a month, but certainly after the Second Circuit's opinion, when he loses, I think we may all get the distinct pleasure of watching him march in. I don't think they'll go arrest him, and perp walk him, but we're going to get the pleasure of seeing him walk into federal court in New York, and he's going to be indicted. That's what I believe.
Wow. I'm waiting for the courtroom. I'm waiting for the courtroom artwork from that one. I always like those, so it'll be funny. So
Carol will come back out of retirement.
Well, they very
sit in the front row with a pen.
But so is anybody though upset that there's not going to be this second debate? Does anybody really mind that? Because we were all talking after the first one. Do we really want 2 more of these?
No.
Relieved. I mean, it was so painful, that first one. It was just so insane. I mean, the upside is that Biden, ended up really being victorious just by being normal. But
well, speaking of normal, go ahead, David.
I was going to say, I think Biden should show up and just with the TV time that he has, since it was going to be a town hall forum, say I showed up and just let the embarrassment be there.
I think that's going to happen. But, as I was saying, getting back to, speaking of normal, we had a somewhat normal debate between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris this week. Obviously, there were some parts of it that were a little obnoxious. Mike Pence certainly went over his allotted time and time again. But we actually heard them talk about whatever issues they felt like talking about, as opposed to the questions that were asked by the AP correspondent that was doing this thing yesterday. Or a couple days ago, USA Today, excuse me. Yeah. What did everybody think about that debate? Kamala Harris, I thought she did a pretty good job of not blowing her top, because there's a double standard for women. Obviously, if she gets too upset, she becomes like an angry woman. You don't want to have the angry black lady on the screen. And then now she's getting criticism for smirking on camera while Mike Pence was giving his answers. And I just really, this is what we focus on, as opposed to the person that caused these smirks in the first place. It's got to be frustrating.
I have a question for Nancy. You tell us.
Oh, okay.
The one thing, my question is this: forget what was said, forget all the other stuff. Those times where she had to say, "Excuse me, I'm speaking, sir, let me finish." I gotta believe 90% of the women that were watching that debate went, I remember this. It just happened to me in the kitchen with my own asshole husband.
That's exactly right.
What do you tell us about that as a female?
Yeah, exactly. It is every woman's lot in life, if you work at anywhere, to be talked over and overshadowed by a mediocre white nothing like Mike Pence. But yeah, that's true. And it's but it gets back to what I want to say about debates in general, which is they're a total waste of time. And, the presidential ones are only marginally more bearable. The last ones that I saw between Gretchen Whitmer and Bill Schuette were so awful that I just said, I'm not even going to waste my time so I can talk about it on Craig's show. I'm just going to, watch something. I'll watch an episode of The Sopranos. I'll read the tweets, and then I'll be able to talk about it. But they're just, nothing important gets said. Nothing. Yeah. It's all about waiting for the gotchas. It's waiting for the fly. It's all that other stuff. And the hell with it. It's just it's outlived its usefulness.
It's too bad the Democratic convention wasn't earlier. We could have had the fly as a keynote speaker.
Although I have to say, the fly, that really, the fact that the fly stole the show is says everything about it.
A fly says, we're tired of just being regular flies. So there's a fly that's taking it up many, many levels. The famous fly. Do you know another fly as famous as that fly?
The one that Obama killed.
That's right. That's right.
Flies are attracted to shit. So so I think it works out. There was for a moment there was a moment of normalness to the debate. Only in that I think everyone prepared, or at least to try to put forth some type of issues and talk about the platform and that sort of thing. But I think Kamala had the most to lose, actually. And I think she did a great job. There were so many things that she was up against. And even though she did a great job, the next day the president's calling her a monster and a communist and all of that. What I thought, which was telling to me, and especially as somebody who's been a longtime conservative, which bothers me with in so many different ways. When Pence was asked about, if you lose, will the president, if the president doesn't leave, what are you going to do? There was that sort of character moment of just saying, what are you going to stand on? Are you going to stand about the principles, the Constitution? And the fact that he found a way not to answer that, there was lots of questions there that absolutely infuriated me. But that just kind of told me that the character part within within this administration was never there. But even if we thought about he had it, the fact that he was trying to find a way to defend the indefensible, again, was pretty much incredible. But that was a very telling thing in terms of how this party has found a way to, even on some of the hallmarks of where they are from standing on moral and principle, is out the door. Like, it's not even there. And I'm thinking, like, okay, so if he does lose, like, so and does, what happens on January
20th.
21st?
20th.
Morning of the 20th.
And he's not trying to go.
Well, that's what the sheriffs are for, right? Put the stuff out on the lawn.
What's the law on that one? What's the legalese on that one?
I can tell you this. That'll never happen, because the man is a coward. He's a coward. He doesn't have the balls to stand up there and front off the Marines or the Marshal Service. He's a coward. He'll go whimpering and whining and just like he does everything else. Who
would be charged with that? That's the question. Would it be the Marshal Service,
I would think
military,
the Secret Service, or the Marshal Service? The Marshals arrest criminals, and even though he's not yet convicted, they'd be getting the right guy. That's for sure.
Or KFC employees.
Well, I think it would be the Secret Service. The Secret Service would be responsible for making sure that anybody who is no longer allowed to be in the White House is no longer in the White House. Your security clearance has been revoked, sir. Time to leave.
They booted, who's the woman, the black woman with one name? Omarosa.
Oh, yes.
They got rid of Omarosa. They apparently, they had to kind of bum rush her out of the place, too. So
they walked Lieutenant Colonel Vindman and his brother out of there.
Yeah.
Administration.
Shonda.
Exactly. That was Shonda. That was a total Shonda.
David, everybody is learning Yiddish on this show because Lengel and I teach a little Yiddish.
The Yiddish hour.
I'll take my notes.
When I'm working at the office and I'm in the same room with Allan, it kind of like leaks into and I find myself saying, "This is Mashugana."
Fakakta is my favorite. Fakakta is my favorite one. It means exactly what it sounds like, everybody.
A lot of Yiddish words do.
All right, let's move on here. What did I want to get to?
Schmuck of the week.
Oh, yeah, we'll do Schmuck of the Week. Yeah, why don't we go to Schmuck of the Week? Because we got a whole bunch of them out there to choose from. And you know what? I'm going to, just since David's new, I'm not going to pick on him first.
No, go ahead. I got mine.
All right. Who do you got, David?
Oh, man, this was easy, man. I'm going for country singer Morgan Wallen. I think that, number one, the idea of you're captured in social media. So, I have to deal with a lot of clients that seem to find ways to do screw ups. They get caught in social media. So number one, you're a superstar country singer. You're drinking, I've at least have seen him kiss 3 or 4 girls, at the same time. So clearly he's not thinking about COVID and all that other, and practicing any safe distancing. And it cost him, maybe not dearly, but it cost him a big shot. I mean, to be on SNL, and this was going to be his first, was definitely was a big deal. So, so now he's in the news cycle for, a good 2 days here, in terms of him being disinvited. And then I saw that Lauren Michaels is got our own
Jack White.
Jack White, yeah. Yep. So chalk one up for us, I guess. But that was pretty stupid, and it also proves again of there are folks out there that don't believe this, and I just think that was the dumbest thing for him to do. I mean, he put a lot of people at risk, including himself.
Yep, and to get booted from Saturday Night Live for violating their COVID protocol is a really dumb career move. Absolutely. Let's see, who wants to go next?
I'll go.
All right, go ahead, Fish.
My schmuck of the week is Dr. Sean Conley. And we don't even need to recount why he's the schmuck of the week. All you have to do is watch him stand up there and blah, 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 when he was asked questions. It's beyond my comprehension as the son of a naval officer. Okay? This man's a commander in the United States Navy. Now, I know he wasn't out there in the front lines invading Normandy or, in the Bataan Death March, but he's a commander in the United States Navy, and and a doctor. Not a medical doctor, actually. He's only, I think, a DO.
He's an
osteopathic doctor, and he's willing to make a complete ass of himself, not just in front of the whole country, but what about his colleagues, other doctors that he works with? When you read some of the comments, and I don't watch television, as you guys know, I'm reading it in the Washington Post or online somewhere, some of the comments from big shot doctors in this country, the guy, at least in my view, he can't show his face at a medical convention after that behavior.
Well,
so he's my schmuck of the week.
And remember this too. I mean, this was my favorite part about this. When they asked him why he didn't disclose certain bits of information about oxygen and things like that, he said, "Well, I didn't want to steer the course of the disease." And I'm thinking to myself, how does what you say impact what the coronavirus does to Donald Trump's body? It does not. And
well, he basically admitted that he didn't say those things because of the PR angle. And I always kind of thought, stupid me, when I go to the doctors, I always figure they're trying to do the best they can for me as a patient. They don't really care how it looks to the guy on 7 Mile, if I have to stay another day or something like that. So that's my schmuck of the week.
All right. How about we go with Allan?
All right. I mean, there's so many. There's just so many schmucks out there. It just grows, exponentially. But I'm going to say Lindsey Graham. I've seen him appearing on Fox News, whining, going, "They're putting a lot of money against me, and we need that money. And please."
Sounds like a televangelist.
I need your help. They're really pouring money in against me, and it's like it's so pathetic. It's like I cross my fingers that he loses, but.
Hey, he's in a dead heat in South Carolina against a black man. Yeah. I mean, so that tells you how disgusted South Carolina is with this guy. And basically the population.
Trump is comfortably ahead in South Carolina. So
but, I'll tell you what, if African Americans in South Carolina flex their political muscle,
he'd be gone.
He'd be gone. And so, I mean, the numbers are there for them if they actually want to rise up and utilize their political power to get rid of some schmuck like Lindsey Graham. Absolutely, he is a schmuck. Yeah. Nancy, who you got?
Well, it was, again, there are so many candidates, but I'm going to have to go with one of the Dirty Dozen plus one who was arrested yesterday, and that would be Brandon Caserta, who is, if you're wondering which of the terracotta tooth ears in that mugshot.
Is he the guy with the spacers?
He's the guy with the ear gauges, the gigantic ear gauges, and the ginger and the scraggly beard and all that other stuff, and who apparently has quite the social media profile, whining about oppression by law enforcement, et cetera, and that one just seems like a gimme. So
I just wanted to put this out there for everybody, just a reminder as you're talking
about. I don't know
why
women won't sleep with me.
People talking about oppression, and somebody on Facebook this morning said, "Well, if Whitmer wasn't such a Nazi, none of this would have happened." And I thought to myself, do we really, really need to remind people what the Nazis were? What the Nazis did, how many people they killed, and how many people gave all to fight Nazism? Do we know that there's a difference between what the Nazis were doing and having to walk in one direction in the aisle at freaking Meijer or wear a damn mask? This is not oppression, people. This is not tyranny. This is public health. This is being good to your neighbors. This is being a good citizen. It is not some sort of form of mind control. It is not taking people and murdering them for the sake of their religion or their beliefs. That is not what this is. And the next person that calls Whitmer a Nazi,
what are you going to do?
I'm going to yell at him on Facebook. That's what I do. But anyway, it's just, but it's one of those things. I mean, are we so stupid and ignorant of history that we're willing to make these comparisons and not really understand why it might be incredibly insulting to millions of people? Millions of people.
The answer to that question is yes. We are very stupid, and we're completely ignorant of history
and selfish.
No, and we in the Jewish community know it from just certain things that we see from Jews who have not, I mean, they know who the Nazis are, obviously, but a lot of these so-called Jewish Republicans, really? Are you kidding? They forgot what their grandparents were. They forgot where their parents were. So yes, they're ignorant of history. A lot of people are.
All right. Well, I've got one schmuck here. This guy is somebody that is in deep trouble. His name is Elliot Broidy. He's a fundraiser for Donald Trump. D.C. federal prosecutors charged him on Thursday. He's got a wide-ranging foreign lobbying scheme. They are alleging that he conspired to illegally lobby the U.S. government on behalf of a number of foreign interests, including some corruption scheme in Malaysia that had some Goldman Sachs people involved in it, pushing the Trump administration to extradite an exiled Chinese billionaire who is pissing off the Chinese, and a number of other different companies. And you think to yourself, how did these guys not learn about what happened to all the other people that were involved in these foreign lobbying efforts in the last few years? Elliot Broidy's facing a bunch of charges.
Criminal mind, the criminal mind, remember? Just keep that in the back of your mind when you're asking yourself questions like that.
Well, criminal enterprise. It's a criminal enterprise.
And the other schmuck is, and I can't name Donald Trump, but the fact that Donald Trump was actually openly begging on Fox News yesterday for Bill Barr to bring charges against somebody, anybody. Please give me an October surprise. Please.
For the QAnon idiots.
For the QAnon. Well, and QAnon.
Arrest Barack Obama for something, whatever.
If they don't arrest somebody, then I'm in deep shit, is basically what he was saying.
Right.
And there is nobody to arrest. But anyway, okay. Those are
I got one quick question. Are there going to be any more debates? You think there'll be a third debate now that there isn't a second, or a second debate now that?
I don't know. I mean, I'm waiting to see whether or not there's a relapse in the COVID bug for the president. Yeah. Because remember, I mean, Herman Cain was like, "Hey, I'm fine. My doctors say I'm great." 2 weeks later, he was back in the hospital and no longer with us. Right. So you never know.
Heaven, though. So
that would be a nice return gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we have to wrap it up for the week. I'd like to thank my guests for being here. Steve Fishman, thank you as always. We really do appreciate it. David Rudolph, thank you for being here. You'll be back, sir. We appreciate it very much. Allan Lengel and Nancy Derringer of Deadline, thank you. And by the way, some great work on Deadline this week. A lot of really good interviews and stories that are available there. So make sure you check out deadlinedetroit.com each and every day, because we keep you updated on all the important stuff. Violet did a great story with some disaffected voters in the city of Detroit that was quite enlightening. I thought that was pretty good.
I absolutely agree. That was a great story. It was overdue after 4 years of reading about every Gomer in a diner in rural Pennsylvania or Ohio.
Thank you.
About Donald Trump. It's nice to hear from some disaffected African Americans. So.
Well, yeah, she actually went to the 48205 and started talking to some people, knocking on doors, which is something that just doesn't happen very often. So I like to see that. That was a great story. But great stuff about Beaumont as well that's been up there in the last few weeks, and we've been we'll keep following that story because I don't think that one's over yet either.
No,
I'd like to thank my sponsor, James Oliver Coffee, jamesolivercoffee.com. We appreciate their support, and check it out.
I ordered some. I'm waiting for it to arrive today. So.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Again, promo code CF Show. Use it. Get some coffee. 15% off your first order. It's a good thing. And we'll be back, of course, next week. We've got a lot of stuff that's going to be coming up. And I'll tell you what, if this week and the week before and the week before that are any indication, we are ramping up to just a fabulous finale to this election. And stay sane, everybody. Please, please stay sane as best you can. And just remember, this will all be over soon. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Right.
And Allan,
stay home safely.
My name's ML Elric. I'm an investigative reporter and a connoisseur of fine yogurts. I know a little bit about Detroit. I know a little bit about deadlines. And I'm asking you to become a member of DeadlineDetroit.com. Like me, I'm not asking you to do anything I wouldn't do. I'm making a monthly donation. My wife is making a monthly donation. I know that seems redundant, but they need the money, and the money goes to a good place. Getting the story out, getting the truth out. Because if we don't support local journalism, there's some people a couple blocks away from here who are going to get away with a whole bunch of stuff that's going to cost you a whole lot more than just a few bucks out of your pocket every month. Go to DeadlineDetroit.com, become a member. You'll see it's really easy at the top of the website. Give early, Give often, give generously. Just give a damn. That's the best way I know how.
The Craig Fahle Show on Deadline Detroit is sponsored by James Oliver Coffee Company at jamesolivercoffee.com. James Oliver is a second-generation family-owned and Detroit-based coffee roaster, offering 19 different blends of freshly roasted coffee. The company pioneered link temperature roasting, and they source the best beans from around the world to create an outstanding coffee experience, no matter which beans you choose. To start, try the Alma Mater blend. James Oliver Coffee gives $5 for each bag of its Alma Mater blend to the Detroit Public Schools Foundation. And don't forget, use the promo code CFSHOW, that's CFSHOW, to get 15% off your first order. James Oliver Coffee, available at select grocery stores in Metro Detroit and, of course, at jamesolivercoffee.com. Remember, use the promo code CFSHOW to get 15% off your first order. That's jamesolivercoffee.com.